Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio. I'm your host, Royce White, and I am here at Free People Radio in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota. The blizzard is upon us. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Prayers and thoughts and prayers to everybody out there on the road tonight in the Twin Cities or the greater Minnesota area. Big winter snow coming. You know, we're used to the winter snow, but when you get 20 to 24 inches in 48 hours, it's always a special occasion. So I'm hoping that all of my Minnesota listeners out there are snuggled up, warm, safe with their family, got their food, got everything they need for the next, however long we're kind of snowed in here. Won't be long. Minnesota's great at getting the snow off the roads and things for the most part, but still, it's always an occasion when you get 2 feet of snow. I don't care where you are in the world, even us Vikings up here that are used to it. We're gonna do news, current events and news tonight, and a little bit of housekeeping. I can't tell you who the guest is yet for Friday. I can't tell you definitively who the guest is for Friday. I guess we're doing a surprise guest on Friday, so you can make of that what you will, and tune in Friday night for our family and friends episode. Other housekeeping: we are fully functional, fully up and running on all the major audio download podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify. What else we got? Google. I think it's is it Amazon? Is Amazon the other one? Yeah, Amazon, and also iHeartRadio. Surprisingly, iHeartRadio still kicking out there, and we got a pretty big iHeartRadio audience growing. So I'm happy to see that. I'm happy that we're able to get up on all the platforms relatively quick for all of you to be able to download these podcasts wherever you listen. We're trying to reach as many people as we can. We know that there's a huge audience out there of people who, wanted me to have my own podcast, who are happy that I have my own podcast, but are still searching for it. So if you know somebody or whoever you know, please continue to share the podcast in whatever form you listen, whether it be audio or here on YouTube. We're going to continue to premiere on YouTube at 9 p.m., Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But we're also having a good run of getting the episodes up on Rumble and ready for 9 p.m. launch. So if you watch your content on Rumble, feel free to go to my Rumble page and subscribe to the channel, and feel free to watch the content there. To us, it really doesn't matter. We're just getting this plane off the ground. We're trying to get it to altitude. Wherever we can get the content to people and get it out there, we're happy to do so. So welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy. The day is February 22nd, the year of our Lord 2023. Please Call Me Crazy, episode 8. First, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. I'm sure my episode or my special Saturday episode with Jason Whitlock over on Fearless contributed largely to the new subscribers that we are starting to get. I hope we continue to grow over the next couple of weeks as we bring you more content and also great guests. We have a lot of things in the works here at Free People Radio in terms of this podcast and other shows that we're preparing. Professor Penn, if you scroll down on my YouTube channel and you go to featured channels, you'll see Professor Penn. He's a comrade of mine, a sort of mentor, a confidant, and I consider him family. He's a wealth of knowledge, so you should definitely go and subscribe to his channel and listen to some of his later episodes. I'm telling you, when I go home at night, I'm watching Professor Penn. I'm just telling you guys, we'll be sure to have him on the podcast and sometime in the near future. But he and I plan to also start our own podcast together in the future called Hebrew. So be on the lookout for that. We'll keep you updated. No need to write that down yet. It'll come in the future. But go and check out Professor Penn's podcast and become familiar with him ahead of all of that. We got big plans here. I mean, we're just fine tuning the process. We're getting everything dialed in. We had a few minor glitches from last week's Family and Friends guest episode with Chris Martinson. This week we're a little bit more dialed in, so we're gonna have an even better show for you, an even better Family and Friends guest episode on Friday, and I'm excited for everywhere we're going. Please feel free to drop comments, anything that you notice, any suggestions. We're taking in feedback from our viewers and our subscribers and our fans every day. I'm keeping an eye on all these things, and we look to address a lot of those things in production, just from a quality control standpoint, right? I'm kind of OCD like that, right? I'm huge on small details, quality control, and getting the best content to you that we possibly can. Today we're going to keep it a little more lighthearted. I mean, it's hard to keep it lighthearted with news and current events, and we're going to talk a lot of politics today. And I want to give a lot of examples of a lot of things. And it's hard to keep it lighthearted. I can't promise that I'm going to keep it lighthearted. I said we were going to do this last Wednesday, and the whole Kerry Lake Black National Anthem mainstream media scam got me riled up, and I kind of gapped out a little bit. But a lot of people enjoyed that. Actually, that's the most viewed episode we've had so far, which is kind of cool, because as we go on through the podcast, I assure you that the things that come into the media or into the public square or through the mainstream narrative, the mainstream airwaves, are going to infuriate me. They're going to frustrate me. They're going to motivate me to sometimes get very animated and theatrical and passionate and speak straight to corruption with a lot of conviction. But today we're going to try our best to keep it lighthearted as we can. We got some stories lined up for you guys, so sit back, strap in, enjoy. Wherever you are, whether you're riding your car, whether you're snowed in here in Minnesota, whether you're doing your workout. I had a lot of younger men who messaged or commented or sent emails and said that they were listening to the podcast while they were working out. I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy that people find it, what do I want to say? They find it compatible to listen to the podcast and listen to this type of information while they're working out and working on their health or working on their fitness goals and all of that. I'm an athlete myself, so I understand the need for physical fitness and health and well-being, and that's an exciting prospect. So wherever you are, sit back, strap in. Here we go. First story we have is Pete Buttigieg, our boy Pete. And our boy Pete is at it again in true political puppet fashion, now trying to backtrack or what do I want to say? He's not backtracking. He's sort of trying to circle the wagons or cover his tracks or Johnny come lately around this whole Ohio train derailment. And I'm not going to play you the video because Pete didn't speak in the video. I mean, why would he? Your politicians, your rising stars in politics often don't speak on the most important issues of the time. They have comments about them, or they get these little sound bites or quotes that make it into the headlines, and they're always so favorable, aren't they? I think this is CBS News. And look, CBS and the Big Three are partners. And I want to say on the record that CBS as a broadcast network was very favorable. It has been very favorable during my time in the Big Three and allowing me to express myself politically. And I'm nothing short of controversial, whether it be, Steve Bannon is innocent or free the Uyghurs or 63 million babies or who is Muammar Gaddafi or, whatever the case may be. They do a pretty good job of just trying to cover it even keeled. But overall, as an institution, let's be honest, CBS is they're a part of the machine. They're a big part of the machine, to be honest. And you can see it right here in this headline. And in this headline, is this train derailment. Will you pull it back up for me? Thanks. Buttigieg. I have trouble saying the name. The name is so goofy. I mean, I can't even believe people would follow this guy. And I'm not saying the name. Look, I'm not saying the ad hominems are everything, but sometimes they are something. And in my case, when a man has a name as Finocchio, as Buttigieg, and he's married to a man, I don't know if they're actually married. Is Pete Buttigieg married, Patrick? Let's look that up first. I don't want to be slandering. I'm already on the record for I guess, slandering Paul Pelosi into having some extra gay marital affair. So I don't want to be wrong on my facts here. Um, Spouse, Pete Buttigieg's spouse, Chasten Buttigieg. Chasten? Unbelievable. Okay, yeah, married to Pete Buttigieg. Okay, Pete Buttigieg is married to a man. So when you're married to a man and your name has "but" in the front of it, I'm concerned. I mean, it just rubs me the wrong way. But that's just me. It's just personal preference. Pete may have a problem with the name Royce. I get it. I get it. Buttigieg says not speaking out sooner about Ohio train derailment is a lesson learned. Yeah, you're goddamn right. It's a lesson learned, Pete. Of course, it's a lesson learned. Of course, when you spill toxins, when a train derails in Ohio and it spills toxins into the air that you can see from space, of course, it's a lesson learned when everybody, for some odd reason, tried to cover it up, suppress it, ignore it. I don't know what this I don't know what this immediate mainstream establishment response was around this Ohio train derailment. I mean, here's the deal: if there's not a conspiracy there, there are these incidents that happen where the mainstream media acts so counterintuitive to the norm that it sparks reasonable skepticism. It sparks not to mention that we all know the mainstream media, the media industrial complex, is full of genuine conspiracy, has been caught on the record multiple times, engaging in censorship, suppression of information, so on and so forth. But you know, and even this one of the scariest things that you can go look up right now, and I didn't have this pre-pulled for you. I'm just talking on the fly here. One of the scariest things you can go pull up is the video of mainstream talking points that makes its way across all of the national news, the global news, then the national news, and even down to the local news. And there's all these catchphrases that look like they were written up by one person or one small group of people, but make their way across this entire network of media from global down to local. And that's part of the reason, or that's part of what inspired my campaign slogan for Congress: the global affects the local. I was thinking about that, as well as global policy that affects local living. But in the initial, my whole impetus to run for Congress was to combat this sort of this corrupt mainstream narrative. So, the mainstream media definitely does a good job of inspiring conspiracy theory when they respond to stories like this Ohio train derailment the way they did. And let's pull back up this Ohio train derailment article if you can for me, Patrick. I want to read a little bit of this for you, and we can just ponder it for a moment. Okay, here we go. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg acknowledged Tuesday that he could have spoken sooner. I mean, he could have spoken a bit sooner about the disastrous Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, that has caused serious health and environmental concerns because of the hazardous chemicals it was transporting. Stop. Now remember, this whole Department of Transportation, EPA, progressive movement, leave it here. I want to continue to read it. This whole EPA, Department of Transportation, new technocracy movement is centered around the idea that we have to be ultra careful with the environment. I mean, if we're not ultra careful with the earth, we are going to leave our children with a planet that they couldn't possibly live on, that they couldn't possibly survive. We're going to leave them with a climate that will become treacherous and one day, stand up on its hind legs and swallow them all whole. Right? There's this huge monster that we're feeding, this beast that we're feeding, called climate change. And here you had Pete Buttigieg, who is EV climate change, puppet number one. LGBTQ, Church of. I mean, let's just be real. That's an alliance right there. And He's late. He's Johnny come lately when it comes to hazardous chemicals being spilled out into the Ohio air. I wonder why. The 38 cars that derailed roughly 2 weeks ago were carrying substances including vinyl chloride, butyl acrylate, a bunch of scientific. Oh, how they got the science down on all the chemicals that were spilled in the environment, all toxic to humans and the environment. The train derailment contaminated at least 15,000 pounds of soil and 1.1 million gallons of water, according to Norfolk Southern. Ohio residents have expressed outrage and frustration over the federal government's slow response in providing health and humanitarian services. Buttigieg took 10 days to publicly address the crisis, a response which he now concedes should have come sooner. I was focused on just making sure that our folks on the ground were all set. I mean, I was doing the job that kings do. I had to make sure everybody on the ground was set. Well, maybe if you weren't off all year long, Pete, right? Maybe if you weren't off all year long promoting LGBTQ rights or LGBTQ policies or advancements that there in Washington with your butt buddy Biden. Maybe the people in Ohio would be prepared for these type of things. Maybe that's what genuine local leadership looks like, right? I mean, the secretary of the Department of Transportation and your people don't have their marching orders, Pete? You must be busy, man. You must be a busy guy with all that other all that infrastructure money that we printed on the backs of the American people. Where was I at? Okay. I was focused on just making sure our people on the ground were all set. But I could have spoken sooner about how strongly I felt about this incident. And that's a lesson learned for me, Buttigieg told CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey Burns Tuesday in an interview airing on CBS News Red and Blue. Okay, I'm done with this story. Pete Buttigieg, it's typical new left progressive Finocchio, environmental scam artist. And again, we here at Free People Radio don't claim to be informed well enough scientifically to make any definitive claims about climate change or climate science. But what we do know, and what we can stress with some level of surety, is that the climate narrative is being used to manipulate people and manipulate culture in an overt manner, and that the contradictions in this whole climate narrative are quite obvious to anybody who has half a brain and is willing to think for themselves and not be told what to do like a sheep. So that's the deal. I mean, I just think it's very, very interesting how long it took the mainstream media and even environmental heralds like Pete Buttigieg to respond to this Ohio derailment. And my thoughts and prayers are with all the people there in East Palestine, Ohio, and the greater Ohio area or Pennsylvania area, because surely they haven't seen the last of the effects and ramifications of this train derailment. Next story here, we got, and look, when we do current news and events, I want to sometimes go back and pull old news. I want to go pull old stories so that the old stories help paint a picture as well. It's not just what's today, that's called chasing the machine. I want to go tell you what the machine was saying before, what the machine laid in the past. And in that way we can keep a narrative that is succinct, a narrative that is consistent, and we can hold people accountable in this way. And in this one, actually my producer here, my good friend Patrick, who we're going to make sure that in the couple of shows to come, you'll actually be able to see Patrick here is becoming a myth already. But we're going to get a camera turned on him so you can see my guy Patrick here in the studio is doing great work for us, helped us get off the ground for Free People Radio. But my guy Patrick brought up at lunch earlier today that a bunch of Bush officials were working with Joe Biden, some in his cabinet, some around him in the White House, but supported him. And so we pulled this article from NPR. I mean, I was just curious, I was curious about this, and It doesn't shock me, but you hear things and you wanna confirm, right? This is NPR, and the headline reads: Hundreds of former Bush officials unite to endorse Joe Biden. This was July 1, 2020. This was 2 months, or really about 4 weeks after George Floyd. Huh? Let's see. George Floyd happened May 25th, 29th of 2020, and this was July 1. So we had a bunch of and the reason why I brought this story up is because we're going to talk about a lot of politics throughout this episode. And I have to say it again: uniparty, uniparty, uniparty. And for all the people out there who hear me talk about the uniparty, or if you've been listening to the podcast in the first few episodes, you'll remember me say that you got to say that thing 3 times like Beetlejuice, because it's ugly, it's decrepit, it's hard to kill, it's hard to defeat, its breath stinks. The uniparty is an example of everything that's wrong with this country. And when people have been made to think of Donald Trump, they think of Donald Trump as a lot of people in the country think of Donald Trump as part of a hegemony of Republican politics, when nothing could be further from the truth. The Republican establishment, the Republicans that you've come to know and probably hate for policy or whatever the Senate has done for a long time, the Mitchell McConnells, so on and so forth. All of those Republicans hate Donald Trump. They can't stand Donald Trump. And that's not a sign of their own sanity and rationality. That's not saying, oh, well, even the Republicans don't like Donald Trump, which is what many liberal institutions and media outlets try and do. Even the Republicans don't agree with you. That's like something you feed stupid people, right? That's a juxtaposition you feed people who get their politics from the headlines of the New York Times. It's like Donald Trump is disregarded even by people on his own side. No, Donald Trump never was on the same side with these people. Donald Trump came into the Republican Party and into politics fighting these people. That's historical fact, and that's part of the reason why. The liberal establishment, the mainstream media, went after him the way they did. It's not because of when he's been dishonest. That's not true. That's ridiculous. It's not because of his taxes. Give me a break. His taxes, the liberal establishment, liberal voters, Democrat voters are outraged by the corruption of Donald Trump because of his taxes, the tax code. I mean, these people don't understand how tyranny is being waged upon them. It's absolutely absurd. They don't like Donald Trump for the times where he is brutally honest. That's the disregard or dislike or distaste for Donald Trump. And mostly it's because he fought the Republican establishment, which served as the outer bastion for New World Order and a corrupt status quo. And here we have an article to reference where shortly after George Floyd was killed, about a month later, still in the heart of much of the backlash, you could say, the response of George Floyd, and we still had much COVID stuff happening here as well. You had 43. Scroll up. I want to read the headline again. Hundreds of former Bush officials unite to endorse Joe Biden. Scroll down. That's so interesting that the Bush officials would endorse Joe Biden. A group of former George W. Bush administration officials, hold on one second, a group of former George Bush administration officials has pledged to engage and mobilize disenchanted GOP voters through a new super PAC formed to elect Joe Biden to the White House. The group, 43 alumni for Biden, a reference to Bush, the 43rd president, described its formation as an effort to restore the principles of unity, tolerance, and compassion to the greatest elected office in the world. For 4 years, we have watched with grave concern as the party we love has morphed into a cult of personality that little resembles the party of Lincoln and Reagan, said Karen Kirksky. Kirksey, the group's director. We endorsed Joe Biden, not necessarily in full support of his political agenda, but rather in full agreement with the urgent need to restore the soul of this nation. Once elected, we look forward to working in a bipartisan way through civil, spirited debate on the many important issues facing Americans today and for decades to come. The group, consisting of hundreds of former Bush officials, is the latest effort by establishment Republicans to reject the leadership of President Trump. I mean, they're just coming out and saying it. Who sailed to the presidency in the 2016 election on a blistering, divisive campaign centered on nationalism and a rejection of the politically correct. I mean, this is amazing. I honestly, I didn't even read the article down this far when we brought it up for you. I mean, we queued it up. I knew from the headline that this was a great example of uniparty politics just from the headline. And I had no clue about this. I wasn't paying close enough attention. I was busy leading the brainwashed, liberal, purple-haired transgender lesbians here in the Twin Cities to the Federal Reserve to preach about monetary policy in the heart of the George Floyd uprisings. But this is just gold. I mean, NPR couldn't be any more run-of-the-mill establishment status quo, uniparty politics journalism. And they just come right out and say it. I mean, they think you're all stupid. No, better yet, they know you're all stupid. And that's the reality. And I'm not saying all of you who are watching, because if you're taking the time to watch this podcast, you're probably taking the red pill. You're in the knowing somewhat, But for all of those who may come to watch the podcast to criticize and go, Royce White is a token, a black token, a coon for Donald Trump and the nationalist white supremacists or whatever they say, they think you're stupid. That's just the reality. They think you're all dumb. And this paragraph here is incredible. The group, consisting of hundreds of former Bush officials, is the latest effort by establishment Republicans to reject the leadership of President Trump, who sailed to the presidency in 2016 election on a blistering, divisive campaign centered on nationalism and a rejection of the politically correct. Well, I think we all should embrace nationalism and we should reject the politically correct. The political correct. I mean, Democrat darlings reject political correctness. I mean, I think I saw Jon Stewart, who is like a diehard card-carrying Democrat for the most part, say that political correctness was going to kill comedy and American culture writ large. Although he would get on the other side of it for his political motivation and ambitions, but certainly we all sort of see the danger of political correctness as an axiom of popular culture or modern culture. You were showing me something. You highlighted something else, Patrick. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Patrick here has highlighted some more information that he thinks is pertinent for us. By announcing its formation on July 1, the group will effectively avoid disclosing its donors until mid-October, less than 3 weeks before the election. Wow, fancy that. Money scam. I got it. Scroll down here. Had it announced the day before, it would have had to file a list of donors with the Federal Election Commission by mid-July. Wow, beat the clock, put a good spin on it. Okay, next story. Uniparty. And now we fast forward to this week. This just came out. I mean, this whole thing is popping off right now. Donald Trump labels Fox News Rhino Network over Desantis coverage. And you know what? I got to say, I absolutely agree with him. Tucker is the last holdout there over there at Fox News, and he's trying his best. And I don't always agree with him, but Tucker does a good job of at least trying to push back on the momentum of a corrupt status quo. And he's sharp, he's smart, and he's doing the best that he can. But everybody else over at Fox News is completely in on it. What's my guy's name though from Minnesota? Hegeseth. I like Hegeseth. Hegeseth is a Hopkins guy. I think Hegeseth went to Hopkins if I'm not mistaken. I like Hegeseth. I did a piece with Hegeseth. I went on his show. And I obviously went on Tucker, but I went on Tucker and I talked about the Fed and monetary policy and the corrupt status quo, and I didn't get back. I didn't get invited back on Tucker's at all. So that speaks volumes in my opinion. But hey, to each his own. Tucker's trying to fight back. I get it, but the entire Fox News as an look, the Murdochs run Fox News. These people are radical globalists. They're radical globalists. The entire narrative that they're pitching over at Fox News. Let me say this. You pull me up here. Put me center. I want to look down the pipe at people. The entire let me help you guys out with something at home. The entire Fox News business model is an example of understand black truth, right? There are white lies, but there are black truths. There are truths that are told with the intention of 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 a dishonest outcome, a dishonest end result. Yeah, people are telling the truth, but it's like a half truth. It's a half truth because they present their motive in one way when really their motive is something completely different. And Fox News has been this for a long time. And in that way, Fox News and the establishment Republicans have served as the outer bastion, the outer guard of New World Order, of globalism. This is the reality. They can talk about borders and nationalism and black on black crime. Things are getting so crazy in Atlanta that if you walk the streets during the daytime, the chances are you'll be raped and mugged. All they want you to do is be afraid. And out of your fear, you will be angry and rageful, right? I mean, fear is the best drug in the world. Fear is the best control mechanism in the world. It has been such since time immemorial. And that's what Fox News is pushing down your throat, fear. Democrats are doing it too. CNN is doing it too. CNN is doing something different, though. CNN is pushing kumbaya, right? They're pushing a different type of fear. They're pushing the fear of individual accountability and faith, right? The walk of life for somebody who's faithful and believes in God and has a real strict moral and ethical framework, or a real moral and ethical integrity. It's too hard, too much work, too much confusion. Who to listen to? The Bible? White people? White men? You don't listen to white men about how to live? Can't do that. We'll listen to Don Lemon. Oh, wait. Don Lemon's on his way out. Oh, Don Lemon got benched this week. Oh, we got smoke in the city over there at CNN. They're going after gay black men now. Woo-hoo-hoo. The ante is up, boy. I'm telling you, Don thought he was safe over there. Don thought he was safe over there with the rouge on his cheeks. Don had the rouge going. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when you see some of these people on TV, all the powder and the makeup that they put on, sometimes you can see it. I always think it's funny anytime I see a soundbite of Don or a clip of Don. I can just hear that he has the rouge on his cheeks, or I can see it. But yeah, I mean, CNN's pushing that whole narrative. But don't be confused at home. This nationalist movement, this populist nationalist movement, will not rise, and it will not be successful if the majority of middle white America continues to tune into Fox News and take it as a sermon on the hill, because it's not. I mean, the real hitters don't listen to Fox News. And some of us may even go on Fox News because we know that the greater middle America, the common man, the greater demographic of middle Americans still tune into Fox News. We know that. So a lot of us will go on to Fox News in hopes that the people that are watching have more sense than the people who are producing and talking on the channel and network. But we don't take Fox News serious. This is the scam that's been run. If you're sitting at home and you vote Democrat or you're a liberal, or you watch CNN or MSNBC religiously, you'll see a Steve Bannon go on Tucker and you'll think, oh, look at these Republicans coming together under one banner. But really, that's not the case. Steve Bannon is going on Tucker because he knows that any chance he gets in the mainstream, in the mainstream is valuable time for him to be able to change hearts and minds around what's real, what's true, what's really going on, the signal from the noise. And he takes that opportunity, just like I did, to talk on Tucker. But I know the truth. I knew Tucker wasn't going to have me back on after I talked about the Fed. I knew he was going to get a call from upstairs and say, hey, the black bald-head kid, looks like a militant from out there in the Twin Cities, led people to the Federal Reserve. He's talking about the uniparty and globalism and all this other, multilateral, international global governance. You don't have him back on anymore. That's not what people want to hear. People want to hear why, the chances are increasing that you get robbed at gunpoint in Cleveland, Ohio, right? That's what our viewers want to hear, right? And I'll tell you, middle white Americans, the same way I tell black people. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what your race is. I'll tell you all the same. Get yourself a gun. Protect yourself. Your security is your responsibility. That's American. That's Americanism. Okay? That's Americana. It's not let's bolster the police. Let's increase the police force, right? Because that can turn on you quick. And you saw that a little bit with the COVID response, right? Before you knew it was vaccine mandates. Before you knew it, in New York City, a state and a city that has huge stop and frisk police policies, were going around and kicking women and children out of restaurants who didn't have vaccine cards? Huh? That's what happens when you get a police that are militarized, that are trained by the IDF in counterterrorism, and they know very well what it means to treat citizens like they're below the law. The citizens aren't below the law. Nobody's above the law, right? Nobody's above the law. We need the rule of law. That's just a good, a huge advancement in human civilization, the rule of law. It comes from Abrahamic law. It comes from Mosaic law. It comes from the Ten Commandments and Christ and the Bible, law, the rule of law. So we need the rule of law, but we are not below the law. It's an important distinction to make. We are not below the law, okay? And when you give police too much power, when you give law enforcement too much stake in your security, you have now given up your freedom for security and materialism. And that's a widespread issue in America, widespread issue in American culture, in all communities, all races, all ages, all genders. Giving up too much of our rights. This is an example of it, right? We got to come back to the middle on these things, and not the corrupt centrist status quo middle. I mean the middle of sanity and rational thought. But that's what Fox News wants to sell you, right? And oh, by the way, all of a sudden they're against Donald Trump. Why are they against Donald Trump? Is it really because he's so radical? Do you really believe that at home? I mean, give me a break. You think that they don't like Donald Trump because he's too radical? If you're telling yourself that, you are a fool. It's not his radical policies or beliefs. Why, is not the reason they don't like him. The reason they don't like him is because he said that they're all full of it. That from the permanent political class in D.C., all the way to the heads of media there in New York City and around the world are all in on it together, and they're running a scam. They're running a scam on the American taxpayer and the American military, and using both as a way to engage in piracy, drugs, and slavery, which all of you should have an interest in. So I'm going to continue. Donald Trump's blasting Fox News. He says this is the Rhino Network, and I have to agree with him on that. Let's move on here to this next story. This was let's just transition right into the media industrial complex here. Who wants some more? Who wants some more, right? New York Times, Putin's move on nuclear treaty may signal end to formal arms control. So here in this story, what they're saying is, and you got to get behind the paywall, but we're not going behind it. Are we behind the paywall here? No, we're not. Good. Okay. I would never give the New York Times my money. But I have somebody who sent me this, printed this entire article out and sent it to me. But basically what they're saying here is that the last nuclear agreement between Russia and the United States is dying, and arms control may be too. So we're going to all-out war. That's what they're saying. Mutual inspections were interrupted by the pandemic, then by the war. Oh, whoa. The inspections between Russia and United States were interrupted by the pandemic, then by the war in Ukraine, but now, new start. The last nuclear agreement between Russia and the United Nations is dying, and arms control may be too. Okay, so, President Vladimir Putin said Russia would pull back from New START, the last remaining nuclear arms control treaty with the United States. The U.S. State Department had previously said Russia was not compliant in the agreement. Yeah. Well, yeah, we're going to war. So I guess the agreements are going to start to fall by the wayside. Let's go to this next article here. This was an interesting one. I found this just came out yesterday, and this was a Newsweek article that talked about Ukraine's volunteer cyber army. And I guess they had a sort of cyber experiment or a volunteer cyber army there in the Ukraine. The headline here is for all the people that are watching or the people who are listening. The headline on this article is Ukraine's volunteer cyber army could be a blueprint for the world. And scroll down a little bit. This is such an interesting, when you really start to read these things, it's horrifying the way they even write some of these articles. It was a hackathon like any other. How many hackathons are they having out there, Patrick? Is there a huge hackathon community?
I have no idea.
I mean, man, I haven't been to one hackathon. I've never even heard of a hackathon. Sounds like a bunch of anti-God cucks, if you ask me, but hey, to each his own. Hackathon with a bunch of other tech heads. Here we go. It was a hackathon like any other. 300 or so young tech enthusiasts convened for 3 days to work in informal groups, seated on beanbags or around tables, to solve a set of tough problems through software and collaboration. I mean, the fact that, look, you get 300 tech cucks on beanbags? Are you kidding me? These are the people you guys want to follow. I know you do. I know it. I get it. Can you show the picture for all the people that are watching at home? You can't show the picture. They're trying to pull a video up in front of us. When you send the article, or when you go to this article and you text it to somebody, it has a cover photo. Nope, don't even restart. I don't want to mess with it. But anyway, scroll down. I'm gonna keep reading here. Anyway, there's a picture of this room where they had all these bean bags, and I mean, it's just it's a huge sea of rainbow bean bags. It's just so interesting how these things start to converge and correlate, right? I wouldn't go anywhere and sit with any large group of people on bean bags. I would never go anywhere and sit in any large room with a huge crowd of people on rainbow-colored beanbags, and that's not homophobia. That has nothing to do with an anti-gay sentiment. I just think that when people go out of their way to organize an event and make sure that the color of the beanbags have a sort of rainbow assortment, that something's off there. There's something disanchored about that whole deal. And here we go. I mean, it gets worse. Okay. Convene 3 days to work in informal groups, seated on beanbags or round tables to solve a set of tough problems through software and collaboration. Coding teams competed to a soundtrack of live music fueled by coffee, sandwiches, and pizza. It's a good old-fashioned hackathon picnic. But this one was different. First, it was in a shuttered subway station, deep underground. Second, it was an act of war and could lawfully be targeted by the enemy. They had a hackathon picnic that was 250 feet underground in a subway station that was actually an act of war and could be targeted by the enemy. This is an intense, risky, adrenaline type of hackathon beanbag soiree they got going here. The Ukraine National Defense Hackathon took place November 24th through the 26th in the Maiden Nezhezhny subway station right in the center of Kyiv. Closed since the start of the war and almost 250 feet underground, the station was the safest place in the city and had the most reliable power, explained Misha Verch, a senior operations manager for CRDF Global. CRDF Global, a Department of State contractor working in Ukraine and one of the event organizers. Okay. The station was also warm with Wi-Fi. Dozens of attendees chose to stay overnight. It was a sleepover. It was a slumber party. You got next to each other, after hours when the coding wound down, right? When the fingers started to get a little tired from all that hackery. I don't even know if that's a word, hackery, all that hacking they were doing. I mean, my fingers got a little tired and got up next to each other and gave each other some good old-fashioned physical support, right? Working and sleeping rather than go home, creating a kind of slumber party vibe. Wow, they say it right there in the article, slumber party. We had to order more pizza. This place was so safe, so warm, so fun. It was so homey, right? It was so comfy that we had, there's the picture. There it is. Look at that. That's incredible. People, look, if you want to see what the future looks like, you're not invited. Let me just be clear. This is a Pete Buttigieg type of event here. And I'm being funny and I said we'd be lighthearted and I'm trying my best to keep it lighthearted, but deep down, I'm actually doing it so that every show isn't this full-blown sort of mental pressure on you. And I want to be able to have that variety so that we can continue to develop a conversation and community. But deep down, I start to get frustrated because this is the future they want you to embrace. 250 feet underground in an abandoned subway station, hacking the enemy, fighting a war, a king's war, a war between kings and kingmakers. Okay. They got these young people who believe that they're, fighting a righteous war, cyber war against the Russians, who they've yet to even mention yet, who this war is against. This is good fun. I got my computer skills and I got my friends and my peers and there's pizza and there's bean bags and hacky sacks and anal beads and it's all good. Everything's good. But here's the punchline. The hackathon involved personnel from NATO, as well as Ukrainian defense and secretary officials, and worked on problems such as the production and deployment of military drones, and the legal framework for Kyiv's unprecedented multinational volunteer cyber war militia. Kyiv's unprecedented multinational volunteer cyber war militia, the IT Army. The hackathon was one of the more public signs of Ukraine's extraordinary, successful effort to recruit both technology companies and citizens, its own and those of its allies, as cyber soldiers in its online war with Russia. There's the punchline, folks. Bunch of brainwashed, woke teens, young people, 20-year-olds, bunch of tech geeks, because when you grow up in front of a computer, it has a way of stunting your growth. So you could be a 40-year-old kid when you grow up in cyberspace. So you got a bunch of tech nerds learning how to militarize technology and drones in wars to come. See, this is all this is where you find the double cross and the triple cross. This war, although a genuine war, in my opinion, in my estimation, and will be fought to the end. And many people may not make it to see the end of this war. Nuclear exchange may be in our future, but ultimately, if people do make it to the other side, if any remnant of civilization as it is today makes it to the other side of this war, there is a pilot being tested in this war. And we all know what it is. It's the fifth generation warfare. It's information. It's drones. It's cyber warfare. It's information warfare, and the list goes on. That's the punchline, folks. But they want to give you the rainbow bean bags and the pizza and give you the feeling that you were at a picnic, right? What a place to be. You're right in the heart of it. You're right in the heart of the controversy, the conflict. You're doing your duty for the democracy and democratic liberal order all over the world. Young people, come on in. Come on in. We need you. We need to defeat these Russians. Man, what a story. And this brings me to my next story beautifully. I mean, I didn't even set it up like this. It's just weird how all these things start to meet up and converge. Here we go. I said it. I ended the last episode. What did I end the last episode with? Yeah, no, my last episode, it was. Yeah, no, I ended it. I said there are rhinos, there are ginos, there are chinos, there are minos, right? Republicans in name only, Jews in name only, Christians in name only, Muslims in name only. There's a lot of people in name only out there. A lot of people saying they're one thing, but they're really not. And here we have what can only be described as this futurist, fourth industrial revolution, new technocracy, globalist vision of the Arab world, or of Saudi Arabia, which is going to be the new crown jewel, of Davos and the World Economic Forum and the European monarchy that's going to try and hang on to Saudi oil while they tell you climate is in a crisis. They're going to try and hang on to their connection to Saudi oil to make sure that the Chinese, the national dictatorship of Xi, doesn't get too much power over the energy. Because they know if he gets too much power over the energy, they're gonna see what authoritarianism really looks like, and they don't really want it, right? They would like to be Xi, but they don't want to really have to live under his thumb. This is what we got to understand about the global 4-player jump ball. And me and Dr. Chris Martinson went into this in great detail in last Friday's episode. So feel free to go check that out. But here we have the Saudis, right? Now they're running promo. They're right on the fence. They're straddling. They don't know where their chips are going to fall, but they want to move into the future because whether it be China or it be the European monarchy in the West, either way, they're going to have to modernize, right? They're going to have to modernize away from oil and gas. They're going to have to modernize away from fossil fuels. One, because the oil will run dry eventually. That's just a fact. That's just a reality. Not any time in the near future, I wouldn't say, but there will come a time, and a nation and its people and its culture and its traditions, all of those things are right to think about their future and their existence. And the Saudis are trying to make sure that they have a place in the new world, whatever that new world is, and in that they are willing to give over to technology in a way that is profound. Profound. Play the video if you're listening. Please get to YouTube and watch this video. And look, the video title is the Muqab, a gateway to another world. You can watch it on YouTube. But if you're watching here, just watch this video.
Introducing the new horizon for Riyadh, a new icon, the Muqab, the world's first immersive experiential destination. A gateway to another world. Step inside and it's unlike anything you've ever seen. At a scale that's unprecedented. Big enough to hold 20 Empire State Buildings. Where you and those around you enter a new reality. Transporting you to Mars one day and magical worlds the next. Where your retail experience is completely reimagined. And hospitality, leisure, and entertainment reach new levels, all in breathtaking, ever-changing environments. This is the new face of Riyadh. Experience a new horizon.
The Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund. Man, I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. I wonder what Malcolm X would have said about that. Well, these are things I think about. I remember Malcolm's famous trip to Mecca and him being acknowledged as a Muslim there in Saudi Arabia and being able to do his prayer at Mecca in Mecca, and remember it being an interesting turning point for Malcolm X's journey and his view of the world and who he became. And I just think to myself sometimes, with all of the things that are being said around culture wars, religion, holy wars, the holy wars that still exist, there in Saudi Arabia between the Saudis and the Iranians, which is a proxy war. And people have to understand, if you do nothing else from this episode, please go familiarize yourself with the proxy war between the Saudis and the Iranians. There is a huge proxy war, which on one side you have Russia, which they fall on the side of Iran, and the Saudis, who America falls on the side of, and it's just such an interesting thing to observe, where you have the Saudis, who claim to be the birthplace of Islam, Mecca and Medina, the two holy sites of Islam, are there in Saudi Arabia. And they have no problem, becoming a technological crown jewel. This should concern all Muslims. This should raise huge questions for all Muslims. What does this mean, right? And I want to say something here as we, reach the hour mark. A lot of what's been sold to you on Fox News even has been recycled and weaponized to undermine faith there in the Middle East, to modernize that this perpetual progress of technology is always a net positive. This is what they try to push on the Afghanis and the Afghani people, the Kurds, right? The Pashtuns, these tribes of Afghanis who we initially funded when we wanted them to play the role we wanted them to play in the region, right? We funded the Mujahideen and all these other terrorist groups there in Afghanistan when it was advantageous for us. And effectively, the Kurds or the Afghanis are the only ones to beat the British, the Russians, and the Americans, because they have this profound sense of religious discipline, faith, and culture, and they're willing to fight and die for that culture. I mean, in a real radical way. And do I agree with all of their views of the world? No, but I respect that they're willing to fight. They have a sense of sacred honor. They have a sense of identity, something to live by, fight for, and if need be, die for. And you have to respect that, even if you don't agree with what those people are willing to fight and die for. So I respect that. Now, the other thing to be said is that many of these groups, many of these people are corrupted, right? They take the money sometimes when it's advantageous. That's why the Mujahideen can't be seen as these warriors of faith all around the board, because when the Americans rolled in, when the CIA rolled in and they offered them big bags of money, there were tribe leaders or war leaders of the Mujahideen who took the money and got in league with the CIA. And I'm sure the same thing can be said of many other secret operations, military operations that came in and tried to influence different tribes and people from that part of the world. But my point is that, this whole narrative that's been run about those people, the radical Muslims, has now been turned and weaponized against the greater Muslim world. That you don't want to be like those extremists. You don't want to be like the Mujahideen or the Taliban. You don't want to be like the MAGA crowd. You don't want to be like anybody who believes in religion. You don't want to be like anybody who believes in God. You don't want to be like anybody who has any stern beliefs about morals and ethics and values and what's right or wrong. Those people are all extremists. They're all terrorists. They're all potential obstacles to this bright new future that is heralded by technological advancement. And here we are in Saudi Arabia, and they're going to build what? The new Wakanda? They're going to build Wakanda in Saudi Arabia. And it troubles me that the woman speaking in this video sounds like a robotic white woman. I mean, these people are sellouts. And I'm just going to say it like it is. The Saudis are sellouts. That's the truth. Money, radical materialism. That's who the Saudis are. That's who they've always been. That's who the Saudis are. They're radical materialists. They're money hungry. They're money hungry, and they've always given their oil to military superpowers who are stronger than them, who they can trade in energy for to supply those other countries' military ambitions. And in that they get protected, right? They get protection, they get military support. That's the way the deal that was the deal. That was the deal of the petrodollar. That was the deal that we struck. That was the deal that the British Empire had with the Saudis in many ways. And here I'm pulling up this investment project. Patrick, tell me what.
So this is the wiki.
This is the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund. Okay, let me read the top of this here. The Public Investment Fund is the sovereign wealth fund of Saudi Arabia. It's amongst the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world, total estimated assets of $620 billion. It was created in 1971 for the purpose of investing funds on behalf of the government of Saudi Arabia. The wealth fund has been controlled by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler since 2015. The present governor of Public Investment Fund is Yasser Al-Ramayan, serving under bin Salman. The lack of transparency and close control by the Saudi Arabian government has generated much controversy. So nobody knows what the Public Investment Fund puts money towards. They got $750 billion in there, and who knows what they're putting money behind. Well, we know what they're putting money behind. Whatever they want to put money behind, right? Okay, here we go. What? Stop. We have a little bit of insight into what they put some of their money behind. The PIF has 38% stake in POSCO Engineering and Construction Company, a 5% stake in Uber, a 5% stake in video game companies Capcom and Nexcon. In March 2016, it was announced that the ownership of Saudi Aramco, would be transferred to the Public Investment Fund, and that the kingdom will seek to list 5% of Aramco's shares by 2017. They spearhead the Red Sea project for luxury beach resorts, owns closed joint stock company named Neom. PIF owns a 5.7% stake in concert distributor Live Nation. Wow, that's interesting. The Saudis got 5% in Live Nation. Wow. Interesting. Oh, in 2020, Public Investment Fund purchased minority stakes in major U.S. companies, including Boeing, Facebook, and Citigroup. There we go. You got the Saudi money there. Oh, wait, it gets better. $522 million stake in Facebook, $500 million stake in Disney, $500 million stake in Bank of America. Wow. It just keeps getting better. It also disclosed a small stake, a little tiny, beak wet, a little tiny wetting of the beak with Berkshire and Hathaway. $827 million stake in the oil company BP. And all of this, all of this is the Saudis having cash in this sort of international post-World War II democratic liberal order economy, global economy, that they're just kicking back into, right? It's like, you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. It's like, you're sitting over there on all that money, all that American money that we gave to you, and now they're reinvesting some of that money back into these, to these Western institutions, just to scratch on the back. I mean, this money is nothing to them, right? The treasury bonds that the Saudis are holding have so much value. You couldn't believe how much money they have. Now, the key is the money that they're holding, the money that they're sitting on is really the oil. That's the gold that they actually hold. But the paper money that they hold is valued based on the American economy and the strength of the dollar, which they ultimately have a huge role in, or a huge say in, based on who they decide to finalize transactions with when it comes to oil purchases. So it's interesting to see all the Western companies that come to the altar, come to the well, and try and drink from the teat when it comes to the Saudis. But now, mind you, long been established that the Saudis fund Pakistan and that Pakistan fund certain terrorist efforts, right? Certain radical Islamic efforts, right? For whatever reasons. Maybe it's based on faith and spirit. Maybe it's just based on political, political posturing, or whatever the case may be. These who knows what these megalomaniac world leaders are thinking. When they got their world map out, and they're looking at all their alliances, and they're looking at all the all the different connections from corporations to NGOs and all these other. Who knows what these people are thinking? I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. Who knows why they're doing what they're doing? But I know when you don't have morals and ethics and values and a strong sense of right and wrong at the foundation of your decisions, chances are they're going to end up being corrupt. So the Saudis, Public Investment Fund, they want to build the new Wakanda, and the women who, the voices in the new Wakanda are going to be white women's voices. Interesting. And there's nothing against white women's voices. I'm not making a point about the voice of white women. I just think it's interesting that the voices of Saudi Arabia, the people who are going to talk, the automated voices, and the new jewel of Riyadh is going to be a British robotic white woman. I mean, I just think that's so interesting. Sellouts. Wonder what Malcolm would think. Let me see this next story here. Here we go. We've arrived at it, the uniparty. Uniparty. I want you to listen to this video, because all of you out there need to understand and start to realize, come to really understand what a rhino sounds like. It's a 1.5-minute video. I want you to listen. Republican governor tells Donald Trump, "Thank you for your service, but we're moving on in 2024. We're going back to the center. Time to govern from the center. Time to return to the corrupt status quo, and we're all going to embrace this sort of centrist, moderate position in politics, which means we're really moving further to the left, and we're going where the people are going. We're not going to be leaders." Pull me back up on the screen here. We're not going to lead people, which means that sometimes you got to tell people things that they don't agree with and they won't like and will make them uncomfortable. That's not what we're aiming to do. What we're going to do is we're going to string Donald Trump up as a sacrificial lamb or a scapegoat, and we're going to run back for the center. And we're going to hope that by running back for the center, whatever shekels, drop off of this fat cat, this fat consumerist society, this morally decrepit society, whatever crumbs fall off that we can get the Democrats to give us, whatever falls off, that's what we'll take. Because we're just in it for the money anyway. I mean, come on. What is heaven? Right? What is the eternal? Doesn't mean nothing. That's not what we're here for. We're just here for the money. We're here for us. We're here for 30 years in the Senate. We're here for 30 years saying that we're trying to, lower taxes and regulation. Taxes and regulation, taxes and regulation, taxes and regulation. Then, and in the taxes and regulation, you'll hear them talk about inflation. Oh, they'll talk about a bunch of things. They'll talk about rise in crime rates. They'll talk about the border. They'll talk about inflation. They'll talk about budgets. And it's not that those things aren't important, but it's that those things are black truths, right? They're saying the things that they know to be true, but the intent and the motive is disingenuous to boot. Let's play the video.
The race for president hasn't really started. No one's really thinking that way yet. Remember, we're just coming out of November of 22, and you and I are in this world. We're talking about it all the time, but the average American, they're just dealing with inflation. They're dealing with how high housing prices, record debt, at the household level. So people aren't really thinking there yet. And look, my message to President Trump is, we thank you for your service, great, but we're moving on. Americans are not in the mode of just settling. Right? We're never going to say that the best opportunity for tomorrow's leadership is yesterday's leadership. We want the next generation. We want the next big idea. We want the next piece of technology. And so it is in the American spirit to say we're going after the next thing and the next individual to lead our party and to lead this country. So it could be a variety of individuals. The former president is kind of baked in. Either you're with him or you're not. I don't think anything is going to get his poll numbers up. And as this race actually heats up and people start paying attention, there's just going to be a lot of other options on the table.
And for the people who say the more candidates get in, if you choose to, the more the chances are that the former president shoots the gap and becomes the nominee.
If we were to stay in. So here's the key. If folks get in the race, I don't care how many get in. You got to have the discipline to get out. And that's what a lot of folks did not have in 16. And kind of being the referee, if you will, of the first in the nation primary in New Hampshire, I don't mind pushing a few levers. And they're all great people. They really are all good people. But if you're pulling at 5% as we're going into January of next year, you got to get out of the race. And I'll be the first one to stand up and say, hey, thank you for trying. You're out. We got to narrow this field and go forward. And so I try to give folks a lot of confidence that this is not going to be a repeat of 16 where a diluted field has one candidate winning at 25%. The race for president.
Stop. Bring me back up on the screen, please. It's horrifying. I mean, that is so horrifying. I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe the horror. I know I'm smiling, and I got the smirk because this is News Wednesdays, right? Current events and news, and we're keeping it lighthearted so that I don't melt your ears with my anger and outrage and my self-righteous indignation. But these two Finocchios are going to get us killed. These two milquetoast idiots are going to get us killed. Understand this at home. These two puppet idiots are going to get us killed. Can you bring this guy back up on the screen? I want to see a double. I want to see a two shot of these two clowns. Look at this. Number one, look at this guy. Do you trust this guy at home? Is this a guy who you want to be able to speak on your behalf? Who voted for this guy? The people there in New Hampshire voted for this man? This is the governor of New Hampshire? Are you kidding me? We're going into World War III with the Russians, and this is the guy you want leading? Are you kidding me? And this guy, right? This is the guy who you trust, right? This is your boy? That's how we say it in the neighborhood. This is your boy? This your guy? With the Botox in his face, looking like a 50-year-old suburban housewife in the hills, a Beverly Hills housewife with the Botox in his. Are you kidding? In the Hogwarts tie? Are you kidding me? in his American pen, and he's sitting up here and he's shilling for the security state and the CIA and a uniparty, a corrupt uniparty. Are you kidding me? These are the people that you want to lead you, though, right? Middle white America. All you people who say you're America first. All you people who want to talk anti-Black Lives Matter. Yeah, cool. I'll be the first one to line up and throw the Black Lives Matter flag on the ground and say these people are corrupt. No problem. But are you willing to call these two jamokes out for who they really are? And stand on it. Stand on it. Don't let them influence you and encourage you to run back to the middle. Oh, we need to get back to politics. We need to not look backwards. We need to look forwards to the new Riyadh, the new crown jewel. We got to look forward. We can't look back. Donald Trump is the past. There's all these new possibilities that are going to come into the field of play. Who are all these new? Who are all these new? Shining bright candidates. Who are they? Tell me. Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley is the future of this country. No, they know better than that. They're just running her out there to shill against Donald Trump. They're gonna run Nikki Haley. See, here's what they're really doing. What they're really doing is they're creating a controlled opposition puppet to try and cancel out Kari Lake. That's what they're really doing. And Nikki Haley's the best they could find. Nikki Haley's the best they could find who's out there looking for a job, been taking money from the political donor class, right? The political kingmakers, been taking money for a long time. Big money from the Twin Cities going behind Nikki Haley, been going to Nikki Haley, been bringing Nikki Haley in for fundraisers. In fact, the same people who run Ilhan Omar run Nikki Haley. You'd be surprised to know that. You'd probably be surprised to learn that the same money that's behind your girl Ilhan, who they hate on Fox News, is the same money that's behind Nikki Haley. Same little community. Oh, they all get along so well behind the scenes, don't they? Does that surprise any of you? Does that surprise you that the money behind the uniparty is common money? Who is Nikki Haley? Who is this one? Who? She's the anti-Kari Lake, right? Run-of-the-mill establishment. Doesn't make anybody feel uncomfortable, right? Just there to help everybody smell the progress of the Republican Party. That they'd put a woman out there to run, right? She's going to help Ron DeSantis secure the woman vote. Mark my words. This is what they're going to do. They're going to bring Nikki Haley along, and they're going to test her on the Republicans. They're going to test her on white America. They're going to say, hey, is she somebody that they're comfortable with? Let's see. Don't know until we test it. Still a real human element of this thing. We got to test it out and see. And if they find her motivating or inspiring or to resonate with middle white America that wants to go back to this normalcy, then they'll run her with Ron DeSantis, and both of them will get stomped. That's the truth. I mean, they're setting you up for the fall right now. They're going to try and run on Donald Trump what they ran on all the MAGA candidates around the country in the primaries of the 2022 midterms. That's what they're going to do. They're going to cut all the real America First, MAGA, nationalist, populist, Christian, radical, extremist candidates out of the presidential election before we even get there. Before we get to any referendum on Donald Trump or Joe Biden. And we don't even know if Joe Biden's going to run. I mean, that's a thing in and of itself. We don't know if Joe Biden's going to be the candidate on the Democrat side. He might just resign and say, hey, I'm out. I'm 86 years old. I served my time. I'm done. Let's give it to Barack and Kamala. And when I say Barack, I mean Michelle, right? Because that's the same thing. Let's give it to Michelle and Kamala. I can see the headlines now. The first duel, the first president, vice president, all black woman ticket. I mean, it sounds so good. It's almost like it's a sure thing. Matter of fact, I'll tell you this: the Democrats would be dumb not to do it. Maybe Michelle doesn't want it, because why would Michelle need to? Because the Obamas are still running the Democrat Party if they're in the office or not, really. I mean, they don't have their fingers right on the levers and the buttons, but culturally, politically, the Obamas still carry all the weight. That's the truth. And the people who were behind them still carry all the weight. And the people who were behind them funded Ilhan Omar and they funded Nikki Haley. So, I mean, it's sort of round robin of who's jerking each other off the best, right? And that's actually what they end up doing in a lot of these weird eyes wide shut political soirees is, whoever has the best jerk off gets the best seat at the table next to master. And you could be black or white, but I have a special disdain for the house Negroes who end up next to master for jerking them off. See, over on our side, we're not doing any jerking people off for seats at the table. I could care less what Donald Trump thinks about what I have to say, to be honest. I don't care. All I'm here to do is tell the truth. That's it. And at the point where Donald Trump missteps and is misaligned with what I view as the truth, I'm going to speak on that. I've spoken on that before. But what I can say with 100% confidence is I see what the uniparty's doing. I see what they're doing. You're not slick. You're not slick. You can't run that on me. You can't run that on an alley cat. An alley cat sees that 100 miles off. Nikki Haley and all these other candidates that are gonna pop up that just give us more options. No, what they're really saying is we're gonna govern from the center. And Ron DeSantis, Mr. Yale University, Mr. served his time in the military, neocon, traditional, conservative, but has a little sway with the vaccine mandate community. And I'm not here to discount the vaccine mandates because I think the vaccine mandates were super tyrannical. And, that doesn't make Ron DeSantis a saint. That don't make him the guy. Donald Trump's view on the border doesn't make him the guy. His view on China doesn't make him the guy. His willingness to call out the corruption in D.C. ahead of schedule makes him the guy. His willingness to make everybody in D.C. uncomfortable when he walks in the room makes him the guy. I want to go with the guy who makes all the other corrupt guys uncomfortable when he comes in the room. That's who you need to throw down behind. That's who you should get behind. If you have a problem with corruption, now if you're okay with corruption, then obviously, hey, you go with the corrupt status quo. Govern from the center. I know a lot of you Republican Party officers, RNC committeemen, a lot of you donors, Karl Rove, a lot of you neocons gearing up for a war with Russia. Oh, we can't wait. Hey, we got to be responsible with the budget. We have to be responsible with the budget, but if we got to go to war, then we got to go to war, right? I love when Chris Morrison told the story the other day when he sat down with somebody who was in charge of a China investment fund, much like this public investment fund there in Saudi Arabia. And at this conversation, the guy told him, listen, the business of America is war. The business of China is China. And we're going to blow our wad. We're going to run up the credit. Our DC elites, let me tell you guys what's really going on here. Let me sit up proper. Our DC elites are so corrupt. They're so dishonest. They're such radical materialists. They're so in it for themselves that they've actually coalesced into a group of permanent political elites that plan to run up the tab on your credit until there's absolutely nothing left, and they think they're going to get a special consideration and seat at the table when this nation falls. That's how corrupt these people really are. That's how corrupt they are. They think if they carry water for the European monarchies or, the WEF or the Saudis and really President Xi in China, right? If they carry enough water, the inexorable rise of China, the managed decline of the United States. Become familiar with the term. I knew why they didn't like Steve Bannon. I knew why I had to go hook up with Steve. All you people, oh, Steve Bannon, I can't believe you don't like Steve. Steve Bannon, Steve Bannon. You people don't pay attention to politics. Stop kidding yourself. And there's people that I love. People that I love, people that I would give the shirt off my back to. I've had to have this conversation with. Stop acting like you're paying attention to politics. It insults me. It insults my intelligence. It insults you. Don't insult yourself in front of me, because I don't take to that. I don't like that. I don't respect that. I don't honor that. You people don't dislike Steve Bannon for any other reason than he's telling you something that you really could do without hearing, that you would much rather pretend isn't real. It's not about nationalism or populism or racism or white supremacy or xenophobia or homophobia or transphobia or any other phobia. That's not why you don't like Steve Bannon. It's not why you don't like Donald Trump. And both of them may be flawed. Although I can't really see why people don't like Steve. Steve's like one of the most straight down the middle guys you could possibly meet. Cooler than the other side of the pillow. Could kick it with Steve Bannon all day, right? Old Irish cat from the neighborhood, from North Virginia, right? You could kick it. Steve Bannon, you could kick it with all day. It's cooler than the other side of the pillow. Sharp, smart, knows his history, studies, takes the time to study. That's what they don't like about him. That's what y'all don't like about him. Same thing you don't like about me. Just come out and say it. We're going to have the war one way or another. We're going to have our war one way or another. So just come out and say it. Let's get on the table. I don't like y'all because you guys are Satanists. And for all of you who aren't Satanists, you have a way of inviting the occasion of sin in a way that seems kind of satanic. I'm going to just come out and say it. There it is. I think you guys are worshiping Satan. And for all you people who pretend like you're just atheists, agnostic, or whatever you're saying, if you're anti-God and you're anti-Christian, I think you got a Ouija board at home. Prove me wrong. I'm cool with that. But say why you don't like us. You don't like us because we pay attention. You don't like the people who really pay attention. And guess what? Even amongst the atheist community, any of these people who are atheists amongst you who actually pay attention, who aren't really anti-God, they just haven't come into that faith yet, you sacrifice them in a heartbeat. You throw them under the bus in a heartbeat. Look at Elon Musk, who I don't trust, who's a security state asset. He's shilling for the Chinese and the United States government. He's playing both sides against the middle. I don't care what he does at Twitter, right? Tell him stop shadow banning my account. Tell him put Alex Jones back on. Then we'll see where he's really at with it. In my neighborhood, our elders, some of our good leaders, our older men in the community used to have a saying: "Don't take any wooden nickels." Don't take any wooden nickels. I'm not one who takes wooden nickels. Elon Musk buying Twitter, cool, good. Do what you're supposed to do. You should you should expose all the corruption and the tyranny. You should show the files. I know everybody gets a kick out of it. They all gather around the campfire. You see what Twitter released now. Look at what the liberals were doing. So what? We all knew they were doing it. What were we going to do about it? Nothing. Busy watching Fox News. Busy watching the guy with the Botox and the hair implants. You see, when my hair started going thin right here, I just shaved it off. Time to go. Just keep it moving. Not going to spend a lot of time on my hair during the day. It's too much other stuff to do. I'd rather go and read Tolstoy. I'd rather go and read about the fall of the Roman Empire. I'd rather go and read Sun Tzu and figure out where the Asian mindset is around war and strategy. There's too much to do than to spend a bunch of time in the makeup room, powdering my face and playing with my hair. These are people that you want to lead you, though, right? These are people that are ready to bring us into tomorrow. These are the bright new spots. These are the bright new candidates or leaders of tomorrow. And they make you feel comfortable. They make you feel safe. They help you sleep better at night. No, they don't. No, they don't. That's why your anxiety's at an all-time high. That's why the depression's at an all-time high. That's why drug use is at an all-time high. That's why a lack of genuine relationships is at an all-time high. Divorce rates at an all-time high. Childbearing at an all-time low. Society's crumbling. Society's crumbling, and you chose at home. I'm just gonna keep it real with you. We're not here to sugarcoat here at Please Call Me Crazy or Free People Radio. And I know we're at 90 minutes, and I appreciate all the fans and subscribers out there who have continued to say and stress, you go as long as you need to, Royce. As long as you need to go to unpack this stuff, you keep going, keep rolling. We're gonna cut it pretty soon here for this Wednesday episode because we're just doing news and updates, and I took you through some stories, and I'm showing you how the uniparty is starting to build a narrative, and we're going to come back to this because for the next 20 months, you're going to see this thing build and then crescendo, and when it crescendos, I can't even imagine what they have in store. Maybe another lockdown, maybe another race riot. Who knows? Maybe another black man gets killed out there in the street by an over-militarized police, and then they use the narrative to tell you that we should all be anti-American and give our rights away, our citizenship up, and substitute it with complete anarchy, right? Let's let Antifa lead. Let's let the transgender mob lead society. Really? I don't trust people who dye their hair purple or green. I don't trust people who dye their hair purple. I don't trust you. Prove me wrong. Never met somebody who dyed their hair purple that I trusted. I'm just telling you. Are there people who don't dye their hair who you shouldn't trust too? Oh, of course, no doubt, no doubt. And there are probably some people who dye their hair purple and green and neon or whatever colors that maybe I should trust, but prove it. Prove it, because I'm definitely making the people who don't dye their hair prove it. So if you dye your hair purple and I catch you on video screaming at a rally at the top of your lungs, pull up the video. We're going to end the video. Let me see. You know what? Matter of fact, I think I could send it to you. I don't even know. There's a video that I saw the other day of this far left woke person screaming. She was just screaming out loud. What is that? What is that when these strange liberals just start screaming? Yeah, let me see this. This is probably it. Nope, this ain't it. Don't even pull the video because it might, we don't know. When you pull videos into a recording like we're doing, sometimes the video will make the programming or the recording glitch and act funny based on pulling up new video. But anyway, look it up. You all have seen it. You all have seen it. You got liberals and weird leftists and people just screaming. I'm not following you. I'm not following. I'm not shy about it. And I rebuke anybody of these pro-black fake woke movements who say that who are willing to follow these people. I rebuke that in the name of Jesus, in the name of Jesus Christ. And all you weird black fake woke internet philosophers who are out there saying, "Oh, you calling him Jesus Christ? That wasn't his name. His name isn't Jesus Christ. His name was Yeshua." A book by any other name is still a book. A book by any other name is still a book. And that name right there, Jesus Christ, I don't care what name you give. The Son of God, the Son of Man, his only begotten Son. Self-sacrifice. Pick up your cross, bear it. Pick up your cross, carry it. Right? The narrative we've been told is quite scary, and the circumstance that's come out of it is quite dire. We got the uniparty lining up, putting everything in place, cut Trump off at the knees before he ever gets to run. And look, I'm not saying Donald Trump is without flaw. I'm really not. I'm not here to parade Donald Trump as this perfect candidate. I'm really not. I don't know how to stress that. Donald Trump in the near future will be faced with a decision of whether he's really going to follow the the directive and divine influence of God and his only begotten son, Jesus Christ, or not. The fate of many often rests upon the worldly fate of many often rest upon a few people's shoulders. We were given an existence, a human condition where men rise to the top of society. Men rise to the top of culture. Men rise to the top of civilization. And their decisions and their choices have huge ramifications beyond themselves. Donald Trump is one of those people. He's been chosen. He's been put in a position where the choices he makes has ramifications well beyond himself. And he has to find that moral clarity. He has to find that, that righteousness. He has to find that direction, that path, and he has to be able to walk it. But make no mistake about it, if he doesn't, none of these people who they're saying are going to pop up, who are this bright new beginning, this newfound direction of the Republican Party or any other politics is done out of a genuine effort to do so. That's a lie. If you believe that, you're a fool. If you think Ron DeSantis is some bright new, some bright new turn of Republican politics, I mean, you just, you're not paying attention. You're just not paying attention. I hear people say all the time, people message me all the time and say, you should run. I wish you would run. I can't run. I'm 31 years old. I'm not even old enough to run. And I appreciate the support, but that tells me people don't even know what's really going on. I mean, you're just not paying close enough attention. That tells me that this sort of dopamine framework, this sort of dopamine structure that they've built has people so reactive that we're just typing and commenting and saying stuff without any real knowledge. That's what we're trying to bring you here. That's why I'm an hour and 40 minutes in, and I'm still talking to you. Who has the chops to just stay in it? Who has the chops to just keep going like they did when they built the country? 3 months. 3 months in D.C. We're here until we're here in the arena of ideas to fight it out. We're going to argue it out. The best ideas are going to win. Who has the fortitude? And sometimes the people with the most fortitude don't have the best ideas. That's the way it goes. Sometimes the people with the most fortitude, don't have God in their center. That's the way the cookie crumbles. It's a lack of faith, a crisis of faith, right? Crisis of femininity, failure of masculinity. These are root principles. These are root ideas that have built the culture and the society that we live in now. Who has the chops? Of course, I can't run for president. I'm 31 years old. I couldn't even be the vice president. You got to be 35 years old to run for president or be vice president. But I will be running for office again in 24. I will be putting my name back in the hat in 2024. I can't say for which office yet, but I will be putting my name back in that hat. Let me restate that. I have plans to put my name back in that hat. I'm looking into putting my name back in that hat. Why? Because I think all these people are corrupt. I don't think I'd make a good president at 21, but I think I'd make a good elected official. And I think if I was to be elected into a public office, that I would represent the interest of all American people, the genuine interest of all American people in their citizenship, and defend their citizenship against these tyrannical oligarchs who mean to mislead you, who mean to misinform you, who mean to use you. That's all they're doing. They're using you. This is all around robbing. Let me tell you, this is all around robbing for people to circle the wagons and figure out different ways to scam you out of your tax money without you knowing any different. We got to go fight a forever war in Ukraine. Now, we've been scared of the communists since we blew John F. Kennedy's head off. It's time to fight the war with the Russians. We knew the day would come. It's been brewing. Or is it just a new way to steal your tax money? Right? Trillions of dollars. We're already billions in deep with the Ukrainians. We're already billions in the hole. Now we got cyber cybersecurity, cyberspace hackathons on beanbags. Pizza. It's a picnic. It's a picnic there in the underground bunkers of the Ukraine to see who can hack the best. Who can use drones the best. Is this the future you want? How soon until they turn the drones on you? We already saw that during COVID. We already saw the impulse to turn the technology inward. Social credit scores, vaccine mandates, vaccine cards tied to your public access, your ability to walk about and go where you want to go in order to get food, in order to get in an Uber, right? Now think about it. They want all of you to give up your gasoline vehicles. They want everybody to give up their gasoline vehicles. Why? So why do you need it? You got your app, you got your Apple Pay card, you got your entire life tied into one network, which you need Wi-Fi for. Not only will you need to be vaccinated to get in the Uber, pretty soon you'll need a vaccination to even get on the internet. They're gonna put up a wall to even be able to get access to Wi-Fi. So you people think this is a long way away, but what you don't realize is in China, they're already doing this. I mean, you people don't realize in China, the social credit score and the surveillance state and the whole network of internet there in China is already distributing punishment and access to things and not giving people access to things based on whether or not their beliefs, their political beliefs are too radical or controversial. You think the Uyghurs got access to the internet? Do you think that the Tibetans, the Tibetans or the house Christians have access to the internet? You think the CCP are fair with their distribution of Wi-Fi service? You think that's not coming to a neighborhood near you? You think Pete Buttigieg is going to stand in the way? Do you think Ron DeSantis is going to stand in the way? When push comes to shove, I mean, I know he talks a big game. Where is he at on Russia and Ukraine? Look up for me. I'm just throwing it in there to end. Where is Ron DeSantis? Ron DeSantis on the war in Ukraine. Scroll down. Let's see. Oh, wait. Here we go. Ron DeSantis goes full Trump on Ukraine. The America First wing has won the fight for the soul of the Republican Party. Here we go. Scroll down. Let me see it. Let me see what they're saying. I want to see his quotes. He described the Biden administration's policy as a blank check, implying that his administration would restrict or end aid to Kyiv, just saying it's an open-ended blank check, that it's not acceptable. He dismissed the notion that Russia poses a threat to American allies, interest, or values. It's important to point out that the fear of Russia going into NATO countries and all of that and steamrolling that is not even coming close to happening. I think they've shown themselves to be a third-rate military power. Okay. Now, let me explain to you what's going on here. There's two games that need to be won when you're in politics. The first game is getting through a primary. The first game is getting to be the candidate. See, Ron's not an idiot. Ron's playing both sides of the fence. Ron's saying, let me see what energy I can grab from the MAGA community. How can I tamper down the MAGA community? How can I pull some of the MAGA community in with the moderates and create the biggest pool of right of center, but the center of the right political support? So he knows all the talking points. It was vaccine mandates. It's CRT, LGBTQ. I don't believe none of that. I believe it when I see it, when you're sitting in the seat. Okay, and that's and maybe Ron DeSantis does it. Maybe the things that he's saying are on the up and up. Maybe he stands on it. I don't trust him. I don't know why. It's just an intuition. I don't trust him. I don't think they ever plan on letting him become the president anyway. So I think all this stuff that he's saying right now is just a way to derail Donald Trump for the most part. And we'll see where it ends up. You know, I said Donald Trump has decisions to make. Ron DeSantis has decisions to make. I think that the two could come together in a real rejection of uniparty establishment politics, and really make the establishment go out of their way to undermine that ticket. I think the true question here, the true decision in front of President Trump and Ron DeSantis is to set their individual egos aside and their ambitions aside to come together under one ticket. And under that one ticket, that power ticket that is no longer splitting the Republican Party, but bringing it together, or the America First movement, but bringing it together, play out all of the agendas that they need to. What's with all this man-woman ticket stuff? You know, the Republicans in the MAGA community, you know, the America First people, we don't need a woman on the ticket. We don't need a quota. We don't need a black man on the ticket. I'm going to be out there speaking the truth. Whether I'm on a ticket or not, I'm going to speak the truth. We got real black conservative voices that are out there speaking the truth. That, you know, now the RNC, the Republican Party, they need to get behind some real black voices to go out there and go into the belly of the beast, into some of these communities that have become diehard Democrat strongholds. That's a whole different discussion. But as far as black conservatives go, we got black conservative voices. We don't need any quotas on a ticket. Who are the two powerhouses in the Republican Party? Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. Why wouldn't they come together? And you have to ask yourself, if Ron DeSantis isn't willing to become that VP and play that role and join that ticket, why? Ask yourself why. And that'll give you a lot of insight, you know, and a lot that you can infer about what Ron DeSantis' real ambition is, in my opinion. Because if I'm Ron DeSantis right now, I'm knocking Donald Trump's door down. Let me be the VP. I'm going to have my time to run for president. I'm just getting started. 4 years from now, when you have no more option to run, I'm still going to be there. I'm knocking Donald Trump's door down right now if I'm Ron DeSantis. Let me be your VP. Galvanize, unify. Let's take down the Republican establishment that we both say we stand against. I got your six, Mr. Navy man. And if he doesn't want to do that, you have to ask yourself why. Is he worried about tainting his political currency, his political capital, by aligning himself with Donald Trump? Is he putting his finger to the air, to the winds, and playing the field, seeing where things fall? Is that right? Is that what you want out of your leaders? You want your leaders to be hyper political? You want your leaders to look at everything on a strategy board and try and move the pieces? Or do you want your leaders to just come straight out and be transparent, be honest, and say, what do we need to win the battle today? What do we need to win the fight? And not just what do we need to win, but what do we need to win by staying who we are? Not becoming moderate Republicans, not governing from the center, not running back towards the center, not becoming Democrat-like. What do we need to galvanize? What energy do we need to galvanize? What energy do we need to inspire in this country in order to do something in American politics that's never been done before? Individual people with individual choices have to make individual decisions to transcend the politics, to transcend the times, to transcend their own greed, their own ego, their own pride, their own ambitions. And Ron DeSantis doesn't strike me as a man that's willing to do that. Because if I was him, I'd already be knocking down Donald Trump's door. And wherever he thinks Donald Trump may be flawed, why doesn't he believe that he can step into a position with the spot that he has and help Donald Trump, influence Donald Trump? Support Donald Trump. Give him a different perspective, not a more moderate perspective, not a perspective that's more amenable for suburban white women, okay? A perspective that's good for the country. He could do that. Why hasn't he done that? It's too early. Maybe it's early. Maybe it's early. I hope he sees this somehow. I hope that somehow the real power players in the movement can get Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump in a room together and say, the future of this country rests in you guys' hands and you guys' decisions. And maybe, look, even if Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis ran on the same ticket, it's still not a given that we win. We still have to get through the corruption, the other corruption of the election process. We still have to get through the Democrats and the ultra elite rich liberals or uniparty rhinos putting big money behind the Democrats. 43 Bush alumni for Joe Biden. We still got to get through that. Even if Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump came together on a single ticket, we still have to get the officials for Joe Biden. Former Bush officials for Joe Biden, 43 alumni. These are the questions we have to ask ourselves. And if we don't ask ourselves these questions with some grounded in reality, we need to stop pretending like we want to win or that we want to change things. Because all we're doing is sitting around the campfire jerking off. And quite honestly, I don't have time for it. Me personally, I don't have time for it. This podcast isn't to jerk off. I'm bringing you the stories that you need to be paying attention to. I'm showing you the connections. I'm bringing you the people. I'm going to bring you the people who are going to tell you exactly what the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. I'm going to run a campaign that's going to point out all the things in the politics that you need to understand that are undermining your citizenship and undermining your vote. That's what I'm here to do. Nothing else. Nothing. And I don't care about the subscribers and likes and views other than I want people, the widest audience, to know the truth. And I'm not anti-DeSantis, so don't get me wrong. I don't trust him. I don't trust him because if I was in the position, I'd already thrown down the support. Let me run for vice president now. I'll run for president 4 years from now. It'll already be it'll be a layup. I'm not saying it's going to be a layup to win, but for him to come out on the Republican side isn't going to be tarnished by him running as VP unless he thinks or knows that with the inside baseball of the Republican establishment, if he aligns himself with Donald Trump, he'll never get their support. That's cowardice. That's fear. That's a lack of integrity. That's a lack of righteousness. To shy away from the people when it's not advantageous for your immediate gain, for your immediate circumstance, for your likability, for your acceptance in any group. If you shy away from the truth or people who are speaking uncomfortable truth for acceptance from any minority or majority anywhere, that's cowardice. That's why I haven't run from Donald Trump yet. And I criticize Donald Trump, and I'll continue to criticize him right out in the open. I got a problem with certain things. If it was me, the tax and the tariff on China would have started at 35% and would have went up by 5% until all of the American companies ran out of China or relocated to China. If it was me, I think Donald Trump went somewhat soft on the Chinese, on the CCP. He went harder than any of his contemporaries. He went harder than anybody else in the field. But if we're talking about what really needs to happen and us divorcing ourselves from China and creating some independence, we can't have our antibiotics come from the CCP. It's a matter of national security. 25, 35% on day one. It goes up 5% every 30 days until every American company either returns home or they go to China for good. That would have been me. Operation Warp Speed, not looking good right now. Not looking good at all. Huge black mark. Huge black mark when it comes to Donald Trump. But understand, I mean, when a virus, when a Wuhan bat jump virus from the wet market, remember? Africa man have sex with monkey, Asia man eat bat. When a virus jumps from a wet market and a bat in Wuhan, everybody's in an uproar. Everybody's in confusion. Everybody's trying to figure out what to do next. Fear, right? Everybody was afraid when COVID-19 first hit, and they had good reason. Because people were getting sick. Did as many people die as they projected, as they thought? No. Were the lockdowns probably the best, the most effective choice? Well, now we know that wasn't the case. That we weren't going to burn out this virus through lockdowns. We weren't going to forcibly burn out this virus. Why? People are still ordering packages from Amazon. You can't have a lockdown and your package is still coming from Amazon. Your mailman's touching the package, and you touching the package and putting, frozen food, frozen French fries in your mouth that you're making, that you ordered from Amazon. I don't know, from the day before. That wasn't going to be an effective strategy, and people said that. People warned that wasn't going to be effective. Nobody listened. Everybody was caught up in fear, pride, politics. Even the pragmatic people, they lost their minds with this whole deal. So there's things to criticize Donald Trump about, but understand none of that is why the establishment doesn't want Donald Trump to run. And I'm not here with the Donald Trump pom-poms. All I'm here to tell you is this. I'm going to run a campaign, and I hope every person in this country who really believes in this country, who really has a genuine love for this country, this nation, its founding ideas, their citizenship, the United States Constitution, God, his only begotten Son, faith, well-being, anybody who has belief in those things, I hope you pick up the mantle, and I hope you decide to run for an office come 2024. And if you don't want to run for an office, I at least hope you get involved in your political, in politics in your local area. I don't care if you run for the school board. I don't care if you run for city alderman or city council or city mayor. I don't care if you run to be the sheriff. I don't care what you do. Get involved in politics, because this country is at a tipping point. And if we don't get involved, if we don't pick up our cross and bear it, we will lose this country, and what's on the other side will be something that none of us are prepared to deal with. Thank you for your viewership today and in the future. There is no housekeeping tonight. Stay tuned. Friday night, we will have a great guest, I assure you. Please hit the subscribe button, like, comment below, share the content. We'll be available on Rumble all the time. You can find us on social media. You can find us at freepeopleradio.com, where you can see, you can see where the content is, where you can watch the content, where you can listen to the podcast. I thank you for spending another evening with us here at Please Call Me Crazy. The fight continues. Godspeed.